In this video, we're going to look at 3 ways to take the common button control and add some functionality to it by customizing its behavior and its appearance. And I have 3 short examples of how we can accomplish this. In this first example, we're going to demonstrate how to add rollover functionality to our button control like you'd see on most internet websites. So as you take your mouse cursor and roll over the button, you can see that it changes visually. The little fade effect goes from, as you can see, the bottom to the top, the little gradation in colors, to the top to the bottom. So the gradation changes. And so to accomplish this, we're going to use 2 JPEG files that we're going to add to our resources. And resources are files and strings that get distributed with our application and are accessed easily programmatically. So let's go ahead and double click on our properties page for our application and select the resources tab whenever we're in our property pages. And you can see that we can change the type of resources that we want to add to our project. I've selected images and then dragged and dropped the down.jpg and the normal.jpg files into the empty space within the property page for the resources. Now these have been added officially to my project as resources, and I can access them programmatically using the properties.resources class, and we'll demonstrate how to do that in just a moment. The trick to making this work is to capture some key events from our button. So let's go ahead and select our button and then go to the properties window and then change over to view events instead of the properties. Now if we scroll down, we can see that there are 2 events, mouse hover and mouse leave. And so we wanted to write some code behind each of these events that are fired off by our button as we hover our mouse cursor over the button and then as our mouse cursor leaves from the area of the button. So to create these event handlers, I just double clicked on each of these events here in the properties window. Let's do this again. And you can see that we have, first of all, some code written behind the rollover button underscore mouse hover event. And what we simply do is just set the background image property of our button equal to the properties.resources class.down. Now the down name was given automatically to the down.jpg file that we dragged and dropped into our resources page. It creates it sort of a strongly typed name based on the name of the file so that we can access it programmatically. That's very neat. And then the same would be true for the mouse leave event. You can see that we wrote simply 1 line of code here as well to enable this functionality. Again, setting the background image back to the normal state. So properties.resources.normal. Again, normal being the normal.jpg file that was dragged into our resources. And that's all we had to do in order to make this the button appear a little more polished, a little more interactive as the user is rolling over buttons on our form. Now, the caveat to this is that it comes with a warning, and that is to not overuse these types of visual effects, as they might become distracting to the user. When used in the appropriate context, it can be a very effective little polished item within our application. The next customization we're going to look at is resizing the button to fill a container. And there's a number of container controls in our toolbox. If we were to take a look at the container section, we have a number that are available to us. In this particular case, we wanted to focus on the table layout panel, one of the new controls that have been added in the 2005 version of C#. So to demonstrate how I configured it for use within our little example here, in which you only see 1 cell, let me just quickly add another form to our application just for demonstration purposes. Then we're going to go to our toolbox and drag and drop the table layout panel. And for more information about the table layout panel, please see the video that we've created about this particular control. But just quickly for demonstration purposes, we wanted only 1 cell, and notice that it comes with 4 cells. So we're going to use the little quick task arrow at the very top and remove the last column and then remove the last row, and now we have simply 1 cell. And that's how we set up our main forms cell. And then we copied and pasted a control called stretch button into the area for this cell. So let's run our application just to show what happens whenever we click our button. It stretches to the entire size of our container. So let's go ahead and demonstrate how that works by double-clicking our stretch button to view our click event for our stretch button. And notice that we are first of all checking the dock property of our stretch button. If the dock is currently set to fill, then we want to do the opposite of filling. We want to set the dock style equal to none. So the dock style is a set of enumerations for our dock property. However, if the dock is not equal to fill, then we want to do the opposite. We want to set the dock property equal to fill, which we do here in the else statement of our if-else. So this might seem like a fairly innocuous example to demonstrate how to adjust the button at runtime. We can resize it using the dot property or the top and left properties, and we can also adjust the width and the height at runtime as well, even though we haven't necessarily demonstrated those things right here. The final customization we'll demonstrate is how to essentially point 3 button click events to the exact same button handler. So in this case we have button 1, and it currently, as you can see, is set to the click event. If we double click it, we can see that we've written some code behind there, and at this point in time, let's go ahead and run the application. If we click it, we get a message box that says button 1. So we basically just take the name of the button that was clicked. But if we click button 2 and button 3, nothing happens. Ideally, what we want to have happen is for this same event to fire as we click on button 1 to fire for both button 2 and button 3. Now, there's an easy way to accomplish that, and that's this. Let's go ahead and select button 2. Looking at the events, we will, instead of double-clicking in the left-hand side area of our properties window, we'll just select from the right-hand side and select one of the existing event handlers. So we'll choose the button 1 click event. Now, both button 1 and button 2's click events are both wired to be handled by the button 1 underscore click event. We'll do the same thing for button 3. So now let's run the application and click button 2 and click button 3. Now, how is it that we are able to determine which button was clicked when we're handling all 3 button click events from the same bit of code? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the code that we wrote to accomplish this. The key here is to look at the sender argument that's passed in from the .NET Framework to our event handler. So in this case, we're taking this object sender and casting it to a button, and then creating a private variable called this button, and then merely using the name property of this button in a message box. So here we can determine which button was the one that actually fired off our click event handler. We could do it through an if statement or a switch statement to enable different functionality that has some commonality between the different buttons or other controls that also have a click event, and then handle them all in one spot if we needed to. So while the simple button control seems fairly straightforward, with a little creativity and a little know-how, we can empower the button control to do some great things.